Okay, we all back? Yeah. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Transportation. Sorry we're a couple of minutes late. Before we get started, if I can have everybody rise for the pledge. Thank you very much for that. Uh, You do see the list. We're not necessarily going to go in that order. And hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 310. Chair recognizes Representative Hill for motion. Motion's ITL. Is there a second? Second by Representative O'Hara. Did you care to speak to your motion?
Briefly. Thank you. Senate Bill 310 is dealing with license plate scanners, and the prime sponsor came and spoke to us primarily as a result of one person, as far as we know. Although, in reading the bill, it would seem that there must be other people that would also be in the same situation, but we have no knowledge from the bill's language whether that is the case. The only change the bill makes otherwise is to allow a license plate reader to be installed or mounted in a vehicle that is attended to and operated by a law enforcement officer. Aside from that, there's a new section that would allow a private property owner to have a license plate reader for the sole purpose of gaining entry to vehicles whose owners have contracted individually with the property owner to have their license plate scanned. I think we are agreed that good law never comes from one person, one industry. So for those reasons, I think we would prefer we ITL House Bill 310.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion is ITL on House Bill 310, Senate Bill 310.
Vice Chairman Gagné,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hara,
Yes.
Representative Udom O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Sykes, I'm sorry,
That's all right. No problem. Yes.
Representative Fenton,
Yes.
Representative Horgan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Tulersky,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
and Representative Rung,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
So 18.
Consent?
Mhm.
18.
18.
I gotta count one more time. 18-0.
Okay, our committee's recommendation is 18-0 on Senate Bill 310. I heard somebody move consent. That was Representative Sykes, seconded. Without objection, consent it is. That closes the executive session on Senate Bill 310. Give me a minute to reset. Okay. I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 311. That is the relative to access to driver's license information for healthcare and motor vehicle related business purposes. Chair recognizes Representative Tulersky for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion of ITL on Senate Bill 311.
Second.
ITL, thank you, Representative. ITL has been motioned and seconded by Representative Gagny. Would you care to speak to your motion?
I will briefly. We have seen similar attempts in the past to allow scanning of driver's licenses and retention of the information. And some of the concerns that we have seen is privacy issues that may conflict with our Constitution regards to the right to privacy. But in particular with this bill, I believe we discovered that the rather broad definitions for who would have access to this information was quite concerning. Quote, healthcare business purposes, extremely broad. We had testimony that it could be a hospital, a doctor's office, CVS, Walmart. I just have extreme issues with the fact that that information would be available without any limitation on what that actually is. We also had concerns about the fact that in the section on motor vehicle business purposes, there was no consequence if the holder of the driver's license refused to allow scanning. I had a problem with that. And I think we also, when we came right out and asked how much identity fraud is happening in our state, it was not as rampant as we would have thought that we should move on such an extreme change to our current statute, which protects the privacy of our individuals. So for those reasons and others that I won't go into, I support the ITL.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none. I'll just mention, thank you for that, Representative. I agree with everything you said. I'll go one step further. And a couple of years ago, our citizens pretty much instructed us to do everything we can to protect their information, not just pass it along to make it convenient for others. And through the public hearings, I did not see a demonstrated need for this, to put that at risk. So for that, I'll encourage everybody to support the ITL. With nobody else, I'll ask the chair to call the roll. The motion is did I say? The clerk to call the roll. The motion before us is ITL on Senate Bill 311.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vice Chairman Gagnon.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Thompson.
Yes.
Representative Gorski.
Yes.
Representative O'Hare.
Yes.
Representative Prudhomme O'Brien.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Cloutier.
Yes.
Representative Fenton. Yes. Representative Horrigan.
Yes.
Representative Rich. Representative Tulorsky.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Stevens.
Yes.
Representative Rung.
Yes.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
18-0.
Okay, the committee's recommendation on Senate Bill 311 for ITL, it was adopted 18-0. I heard a motion for consent. Was that you? Representative Gagny, seconded by Representative Hill. Any objections to consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 311. A couple of minutes to reset. We will go to 389 next. If everybody's ready. Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 389. This is relative to defining mobile service garages and relative to state vehicle inspections. And Chair recognizes Representative Gorski for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to OTP Senate Bill 389.
Motion's ought to pass. Is there a second? Second. Second by Representative Gagny. Would you care to speak to your motion?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Listening to testimony on this particular bill, one of the things that struck me is that, these mobile garages are to provide convenience for New Hampshire citizens. And these garages tend to be around the large employers. Since they had one of those mobile garages here, I happened to go down and, kind of look in, and I actually walked in them. And it looked, fairly stable. It seemed very worthy in terms of the repairs that they do. And to add state vehicle inspections, I think is worthy for New Hampshire citizens to allow for the convenience. And based on all that, I think, OTPing this and allowing this for the convenience of our citizens of New Hampshire is a good thing.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a co-sponsor of this bill, I'm obviously in support of it. I have been in support of the concept for more than one session. I hope that we are finally going to get this done for the people, for the citizens of New Hampshire, so that they have a way to get their cars inspected with less impact than having to take a day out of work, for instance. And so accordingly, I urge the committee to vote in favor of the ought to pass motion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion before us is ought to pass on Senate Bill 389.
Vice Chairman Gagny.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Oh, this is the wrong one. Representative Thompson.
Yes.
Representative Gorski.
Yes.
Representative O'Hare.
Yes.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Cloutier.
Yes.
Representative Fenton. Yes. Representative Horrigan.
Yes.
Representative Rich. Representative Tulorsky.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Stevens.
Yes.
And Representative Rung.
Yes.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
18-0.
I will move consent.
Okay. And where am I here? Our committee recommendation of ought to pass on Senate Bill 389 as adopted. I have a motion for consent by Representative Gagny. Was that seconded? Seconded by Representative Travis. Any objections for consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 389. We'll go into Senate Bill 406 next.
He hasn't acknowledged you yet.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 406 relative to driver's license reciprocity. Chair recognizes Representative Sykes for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ought to pass.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Oop, seconded by Representative O'Hara. Would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this bill is was originally introduced at the request of the Department of Safety, and also they did testify in favor of the bill. Lieutenant Leary from the New Hampshire State Police, who oversees the driver's ed program, and other staff members, and it is a bipartisan effort on those from the other side of the wall, as we often say. And accordingly, I would think that this is a good thing for us to do for making it a little easier for people who take their driver's ed elsewhere, and give the DMV the authority to establish those standards for driver's ed.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, the only thing I'll add is Roman 2 of Part 2 of the bill actually is service to our citizens. We learned in public hearing that actually the definitions of a lot of the violations in other states are more severe than ours. And so this will allow the commissioner to interpret and compare what those violations are in other states and apply them to what is codified in New Hampshire law. So this is a good thing and a good clarifier. If nobody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion is to pass on Senate Bill 406.
Vice Chairman Gagny,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hara,
Yes.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Fenton,
Yeah.
Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Rich,
So
Yes.
Representative Tulersky,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Rung,
Yes.
Chairman Walsh,
Yes.
18-0.
I will move consent.
Okay. Our committee recommendation of ought to pass on 406 is adopted. Representative Gagny moves consent. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Thompson. Any objection? Seeing none, consent it is. I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 406. And we will do 449 next.
447?
9.
9. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 449 relative to the retention of social security numbers by the Division of Motor Vehicles. Chair recognizes Representative Thompson for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move ITL on Senate Bill 449.
Motion is ITL. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Gagny. Would you care to speak to your motion?
I'm all set.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody from the committee? Representative Sykes.
Yeah, so this, part of my concern about this bill was that, first off, the Secretary of State's office did not offer any testimony on the day of the bill, and that is always concerning to me when a big part of the questions raised by this bill concerns that department. So I think it's incumbent upon us to recognize that. I'm also concerned that it might, in fact, violate the new part of our state constitution looking for protections of privacy, which have long been one of the, I don't want to call it the prime directive of this committee, but this committee has always been in support of protecting persons' privacy. And accordingly, I would urge members of the committee to vote ITL.
Anybody else from the committee? Well, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. Motion is ITL on Senate Bill 449.
Vice Chairman Gagny,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hare,
Yes.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Fenton. Yes. Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Terlerski,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Rung,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
18-0.
Okay, our committee recommendation of ITL on Senate Bill 449 is adopted. 18-0. Motion for consent. Representative Gagny, is there a second? Seconded by Representative Gorski. Any objections to consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 449. Okay, that was the easy part.
Yeah, now we're.
Hold on one moment. Okay, I'm going to, in light of some new information and talking points, I'm going to recess our meeting until 11:15. See you then.
Democrats were going to move to the office.
All right, welcome back to transportation. Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 308 relative to driver's licenses for certain visa holders. Chair recognizes Representative Gagny for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion for interim study on SB 308.
Interim study's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative, was that Thompson? Thompson. Care to speak to your motion briefly?
Briefly, it is, Mr. Chairman, because there's so many questions about this bill that the only way that we could get down to the bottom of making this viable would be to go an interim study and really do a good interim study and get to a proper solution.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Sykes?
So, because I have great respect for the chair and his vice chair, and take their word that this will be a legitimate interim study, even though I've been a co-sponsor of this bill, I would urge my colleagues to support the interim study motion.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I will echo that. Of all the bills we had here, I have to be honest, this is the one we worked on the hardest. We had meetings with the Department of Motor Vehicles, with the Senator, with the Farm Bureau, and I think there is something we can get to that does give some relief to them. But it seems every time we get an answer on one issue, we came up with a question on another. And just looking at the deadlines, I'm grateful we could agree, and this will not be a death with dignity. This will be a legitimate interim study, and I believe it's the right way to go forward with this. And I ask everybody on the committee to approve the interim study. Anybody else? Seeing none, the motion is interim study on Senate Bill 308. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice Chairman Gaggy,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hare,
Yes.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Fenton, Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Tulerski,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Rung,
Yes.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
18-0.
Our committee recommendation of interim study is approved, adopted 18-0.
Move consent.
Consent's been moved by Representative Gagny. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative O'Hara. That closes the executive session on Senate Bill 308. We'll go on to Senate Bill 309 next. We're going to open up the executive session on Senate Bill 309, authorizing certain organizations to issue decal plates. Chair recognizes Representative Gagny for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ought to pass on Senate Bill 309.
Motions ought to pass. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hill. The motions ought to pass, but this is open for further amendment. Chair recognizes Representative Tulersky for a motion.
Thank you. I'd like to move amendment number 2022-1710H.
Seconded by Representative O'Hara. Would you care to speak to your motion?
I would, thank you. The amendment is very simple. It just strikes line 4 of the original bill, and I'd like to just give you some of the reasons why I decided to draft the amendment. The organization that's listed didn't show up to our hearing, and upon looking at the Senate hearing notes, they didn't show up to the Senate hearing either. As we know, and we learned a few weeks ago, we have received feedback from an organization that is part of the decal program, has been in the program for a little over 3 years now. And they're a relatively small organization, but they said it was the biggest mistake they've ever made as a nonprofit. They did not fully understand the financial implication of what they had to put into the program. And in the end, they discovered that it has now cost them $1,200. They're in the whole $1,200, and they've sold only 12 decals. And they wish they had never done it. They didn't fully understand it. I brought this forward to the committee a couple months ago, and I said I think it's our place to make sure that these organizations fully understand the program, what they're getting into, and have them agree that they know what they're getting into. We know that the program works for certain organizations. Some of the larger ones, it's great. I think that the Girl Scouts of the White Mountains that we passed earlier, I think that they will really excel with the program, and I'm happy that that one's gone through. We've seen the university system has also flourished with the program. It works for large organizations. I think it would be unfair for us to just push one through without being assured that they understand what they're getting into. They can always come back in the future. But I would like to think that we're doing a good thing by giving them a chance to understand what they're getting into before sinking, much needed money that they use into a program like this. So anyway, I did want to allow the New Hampshire Towing Association to move through. I did speak with that organization after the hearing. They were a little surprised that they got grouped in with another group, and they were fine with having this amendment drafted. So I would support my colleagues to vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Hill.
I concur with everything that Representative Tulersky just said.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the committee? Seeing none. The motion before us is the adoption of amendment 2022-1710H. With no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So that is unanimous. The amendment is adopted. So now we are to ought to pass as amended. And that was Representative Gagny. Would you care to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Tulersky pretty much summarized it all in regards to a certain organization not showing up and really not knowing what's going on, what the cost would be for all this. Therefore, the ought to pass as amended would be the better way to go, which authorizes the New Hampshire Towing Association for the cows.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, and let's look at the original bill after the amendment. This also allows the Towing Association to issue decals that will give some recognition to our move over law. So that is a good thing. With no other discussion, the motion is ought to pass as amended on Senate Bill 309. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice Chairman Gagny,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hare,
Yes.
Representative Prudhomme O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Fenton, Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Tulorsky,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Rung,
Yes.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
18-0.
All right, our committee recommendation of ought to pass as amended is adopted 18-0. I heard Representative O'Hara move consent. Is there a second? Second by Representative Gagny. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 309. And we have one left. We'll move into 447 in a moment. I'll open up the executive session on Senate Bill 447, establishing the Electric Vehicle and Infrastructure Fund. Chair recognizes Representative Smith for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on Senate Bill 447.
Motion's ITL. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative O'Hara. Care to speak to your motion?
Sure. I served on the Electric Charging Vehicle Infrastructure Commission for a few years. That was an outcrop of it's one of the things that we could spend the Volkswagen Trust Fund settlement money on. A lot of progress was made. Corridors were established, but this is a program that's in its infancy. Until we see how some of that works out, and we start getting data back on the cost benefit, the impact on electric rates, it doesn't make sense to me to do this sort of massive expansion of a program that hasn't been proven yet. So not against the concept, and this is a bill I might vote for in 5 years, but not today.
Thank you, sir. Anybody from the committee? Representative Sykes.
So, this is a concept whose time has come. In fact, if you imagine such an American icon vehicle as the Corvette will be fully electric shortly, that Cummins diesel is changing all of their engines to electric. And I have spoken again and again and again about how we as a state need to be prepared for things as when they arrive, not, oh, they're here now, what are we going to do about it? It should be, we're prepared for the arrival of this new industry with jobs, changing the way we do things. I characterize it as being sort of like back in the days when the decisions were being made about where to put the new interstate system. And there were winners and losers in that interstate system program. And I will speak to my area of the state particularly. The interstate went through Lebanon, and it didn't go through Claremont, even though Claremont was a larger city at that time. Subsequent to that, city of Claremont has gone through some exceptionally difficult times, and their population continues to go down, at least until very recently, whereas Lebanon's continues to go up with a really low unemployment rate, etc. we should be preparing to make sure that our state is one of the winners in this. And it is time for us to have a mechanism to deal with the very different numbers of funding sources that already exist. Federal money, VW money, there's a whole bunch of them. I would urge the members of the committee to vote against the ITL because there is a amendment that would improve the bill that we would be prepared to offer if we get it ought to pass. So again, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee, let's just say. These electric vehicles are coming. And we need to be set up as a state in order to best do what we are here to try and accomplish.
Anybody else from the committee? Representative Horrigan.
I agree. Well, first of all, if this truly is premature, there's not much harm in passing it because there won't be any funds to put in the either give directly to DRT or put in this fund, depending on what form the bill passes in. So there's no harm into it. But there is, in fact, a lot of interest, a lot of money. This is the wave of the future. Not only the Corvette is going electric, even the Ford F-150 is going electric, that most traditionally fuel guzzling of all vehicles. So this is, and especially those other states with higher taxes where our tourists come from, they're investing heavily in electric charging vehicles for their tourist traffic. I noticed, for example, last summer I was down in Lee, Massachusetts, which is right near the New York-Massachusetts state line, and they've set up about 20 electric charging stations at the right off the first exit off of the Massachusetts Turnpike. And so those people can charge up and almost make it to New Hampshire, but they may be worried about how much farther they can go in New Hampshire. And actually, ironically, this makes especially big difference to the North Country because electric vehicle chargers vehicle owners are not quite sure if there'll be any place for them to charge it if they get up to, Sugar Hill or Berlin or any of the other communities in northern New Hampshire have a lot to offer. So I think this is something that is very much needed. There's a burgeoning demand for it. We had an electric vehicle showcase in New Hampshire, and I personally still drive a Volvo, what they call an ICE engine, internal combustion. So I'm driving a gas guzzler, but there's a wide variety of people who are very enthusiastic about their electric vehicles, not just the hybrids, but also the all electric vehicles. And so I think we need to pass this bill immediately so DOT and the other agencies can get to work on this right away rather than waiting 5 years or even waiting until the end of the 2023 budget cycle. So I would certainly urge us to get on the stick and pass either preferably the amended bill or failing that, the original bill. So I would say, I say this is not premature. This is actually overdue. And so we need to get started before the leaf peeping season too. We want to make sure those leaf peepers from Massachusetts, New York can get all the way up to the North Country and back without running out of electricity. So I say pass this. Thanks.
Anybody else from the committee? Representative Tulersky.
I'll be very brief. I just want to emphasize that not having this program in place to manage these monies, we heard in testimony that having this bill in place will help us when we apply for grants and different funds. We've already heard with the previous bill that New Hampshire's behind the times, behind the eight ball. We can't even get electric vehicles into the state to sell. This is just going to put us more than one step behind all of the other states that are going to be advancing this technology. It makes us look like we're living in the dark age. And I would encourage my colleagues to vote against the ITL.
Anybody else from the committee? We'll leave it at there. We could go on for hours on this debate. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion is ITL on Senate Bill 447 FN.
Vice Chairman Gagné,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Thompson,
Yes.
Representative Gorski,
Yes.
Representative O'Hare,
Yes.
Representative Perdon O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
No.
Representative Cloutier,
No.
Representative Fenton. No. Representative Horrigan,
No.
Representative Rich. No. Representative Tulersky,
No.
Representative Fox,
No.
Representative Stevens,
No.
Representative Rung,
No.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
9-9.
All right, the recommendation of ITL, 9-9 fails. I'll entertain another motion. Representative Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move OTP.
Motion is ought to pass on Senate Bill 447 FN. Is there a second?
And
Seconded by Representative Fenton.
we actually have an amendment to introduce as well.
Another one besides mine.
No, that's the one.
I've decided I'm not going to enter my amendment.
Okay. Then I guess I don't have one after all. Anyways, I'll speak to my motion when it's time.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Where's that coming from?
Representative Rung. It's my understanding that amendment can be introduced from anyone. It doesn't have to be from the person that sponsored the amendment. Is
Well,
is that not the case in this committee?
Well, that is true.
Okay. So so my understanding is that even though Representative Sykes didn't sponsor the amendment, that he could still move it to the committee.
Let me hold on one second for some
Okay, thank you.
clarification.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Right, that's that's the direction we're gonna go. Just for clarification, after consulting a few, I did get the amendment drafted. I do not want to see the amendment go forward with my name on it. So therefore, I'm not gonna entertain it being introduced. In terms of the language being used, which is fine for somebody else to introduce, we just don't have time today. So the best option would be, we'll go through the vote on the ought to pass, and if it's successful or whatever the outcome, this could be introduced as a floor amendment. The change is basically in the first section. And believe it or not, the Department of Transportation didn't even recognize this until the 11th hour either. They were fine with it because the fiscal note was indeterminable. So the amendment, I will no longer support moving this forward with my name on it. So that's where we're at. So we're not going to be taking up this amendment. The motion on the floor is ought to pass. Any more on the ought to pass motion?
Well, I will say, Mr. Chairman, that I disagree with the tactics that are taking place here. I think that we have an obligation to do, when we get further information as things come across that would improve a bill that we're trying to vote on, that we should take steps in a cleaner process here, now, today. I understand, though, that you are chair, and there we are.
Yep, and time is time. That is the major reason for my decision. Anything else on the ought to pass?
I'll just reiterate again, this is a very, this can't be, this is an issue that DOT will have to deal with anyway, and this, either version of the bill will give them a lot more flexibility. This isn't something we want to put off for 5 years. It isn't really even something we want to put off until, the spring of 2023, whenever the next legislature passes this new budget and goes through all that rigmarole. So I think this enables them to get to work now. And certainly those other states we like to make fun of with their high taxes and liberal policies, their drivers are switching to electric vehicles in large number, and they expect our state, like other states, to have a adequate infrastructure in place to support them. So I would just urge the committee to pass, at least the original bill. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Rung.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the OTP. I'm amazed that people think this is not ready for prime time because electric vehicles are all over the place. I mean, if you go down starting in Virginia and work your way north, they're growing and growing. We are not prepared. I look at the traffic in the Lakes region in the summer, and it's going to really hurt us with tourism if we don't have the infrastructure to allow people with electric vehicles to be able to recharge. I echo my colleague from Durham's remarks about that our tourism industry is going to rely on this infrastructure to be in place, and we cannot wait anymore. The time is now. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Now I'm going to go one more step.
Representative Sykes, I'll give you one more.
Thank you, sir. Just as another point being illustrative that this is not too early, the Upper Valley will have electric buses in operation before the end of next year. They're already purchased, and they've got to. This is coming, folks. This is coming. And that's all I can tell you.
Anybody else? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All that aside, I mean, we're talking about spending state money and government money on doing this, and I think the issue of the approach is probably what we disagree with more. You put in a tourist attraction, you also put in bathrooms, because people are not likely to go spend the day someplace that does not have a bathroom. You may have a concession stand, because if you want them to stay there for 6 hours, they'll get hungry. If they're driving an electric car, I would imagine that these places would then put in chargers if they want to attract that, and then use it as a marketing device. And I'm going to go back to the point where I think it's early to begin subsidizing this. I prefer to see how the industry develops it all by itself.
Amen.
Anybody else from the committee? He just diffused me, which is probably a good thing. Representative Tversky.
I am going to be so very quick. I simply want to react to what was just stated. And while I don't, the first statement made on this is having state funds spent, I was frantically looking through my bill here to see where that actually states that. I believe I understood. My colleague was then saying that we would have to build bathrooms and concession stands. I guess I will then just take the very quick leap, because he's talking about attracting more people up here. If I misunderstood, I apologize. To me, that sounded like growing business, growing dollars, people spending money. which is, I thought, what we were trying to encourage here. And that's what I believe this bill does by drawing people in so that they can come and spend money. And I apologize if I totally misunderstood what was just said.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Smith.
Yeah, you did. The point was that the state or the federal government didn't pay for the bathrooms. They didn't pay for the concession stands. And at this point, I don't know if we need to pay for the electric chargers or create this sort of infrastructure and, I don't know, potential bureaucracy, because the businesses might do it all by themselves if they think it's a good draw. That was the only point.
And I do agree with that in premise. First of all, I don't know if the manufacturers are moving towards electric vehicles because everybody wants them. I don't believe that to be true. I believe they're moving towards electric vehicles because they're being compelled to. When we get to the infrastructure of it, I was all fine with taking the Volkswagen Trust Fund money and using that towards creating the corridors. But when you get to us, or even the federal money, that's taxpayer money also, actually spending the money on the infrastructure to recharge personals' individual vehicles doesn't make any sense to me. You see Tesla chargers all over the planet. So why don't we see Ford and GM and all these other ones? Why aren't they bringing the money into the situation? Why is it the taxpayers that have to build the infrastructure? Another possibility that happens is we spend all this money, all these millions of dollars in 5 years, and the batteries improve so much that half the infrastructure we put in is no longer necessary. These are all the things that do legitimize the statement that we're not ready for this yet. So I please encourage everybody to vote against the ought to pass. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Tversky.
I'll just be quick. Well, we just had a clarification from the representative from the Department of Transportation that this bill, as amended, would allow the state, would allow the DOT to contract with private entities to come in and build this infrastructure. This is not the state doing it themselves. And it is my understanding that would also be allowing paid chargers. I mean, this isn't all just for us putting up chargers with free electricity going to vehicles. So I guess we will probably continue to disagree, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you giving me more than enough opportunities to speak. Thank you.
I would not stop being fair on our last day here, so. And again, it's not about, nobody disagrees that ultimately people are gonna have to pay for the electricity that comes out of these charging systems, but we're still being looked at as spending taxpayer money on the infrastructure itself. Now, if every charge had a surcharge that went towards paying for the infrastructure and made it almost like a bond, I'd look at this a whole lot differently, but that's not what it does. So you're right, I think we're probably gonna disagree. I'll leave it at that. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on ought to pass on Senate Bill 447 FN.
Vice Chairman Gagnon,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
clerk votes no. Representative Hill,
No.
Representative Thompson,
No.
Representative Gordsky,
No.
Representative O'Hare,
No.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien,
No.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Fenton, Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Rich, Representative Tversky,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Rung,
Yes.
Chairman Walsh.
No.
9-9.
Okay, 9-9 on the ought to pass. That follows the 9-9 on the ITL, so I recognize the impasse we're at. Again, some may think it's unfair. We just do not have the time to entertain any amendments. They can be done on the floor. I am going to close the executive session on this. This will go to the calendar without recommendation. The motion on the floor when we get there will be ought to pass, and we can have this discussion all over again. So before we all leave, well, you got a hearing? Okay. Before we do leave, the deadline is the 28th. If you've got reports, please get them to me today. It is early enough. I've got a couple to do myself. But before we do go, I want to thank everybody. I can't believe, even though we had to end on this note, that this is the last day of our committee work for this term. I think you can all agree it's been a very interesting one. And I can't believe that it was almost a year and a half ago when I walked in this room with my brand new laptop saying, what the heck is Zoom? So it's been quite a haul. Again, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Representative O'Hara for being my aide during the initial Zoom days, because I had no idea what I was doing. But I, again, too, just want to express that I hope, and I did do my best to hold up the traditions of the Transportation Committee through this whole process. We still had some fun. We had some laughs. We got our work done. And even though we don't agree on everything, it's how you disagree that makes the difference. And I think we were able to get through our work, disagree, forget it, shrug it off with no grudges, take on the next one. And again, I want to thank you thank you all of for that.
Do we have any Senate messages as yet? Do you know?
Thank you for reminding me. I have not got the official Senate message, but the only amended bill we have, and I'll get the message and respond to it, was the railroad bill, Representative O'Brien's. All they did was change some pronouns. They didn't change anything in the bill. So being relieved that the pronouns are now correct, I would imagine will concur with the changes. So, but when I do see, I did get a side-by-side. You know, Brad, if you could email everybody on the committee the side-by-side on that, that way I can just get a yes or no when they do actually see it. That's the only one I've gotten so far. I have been paying attention to the Senate. It's the only one I know so far that they've actually amended. So they've either been passing or killing. That's how it goes. So with that, if nobody else has anything.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Representative Sykes.
So I would like to echo the chairman's words. This committee has a history of working together to try and come up with the best solutions. We almost always find our way there. Once in a while, we don't. But it's been my experience that we have been able to disagree and not be disagreeable, and I think that's really important. And I look forward to further work with members of this committee in the next session.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll see you next session. Thanks again.